Good evening, everyone. Richard Cowperthwait for Northwest Access TV. Thanks for joining us tonight for our monthly show, the St. Albans Today show, this being Wednesday, November 1st. Not sure I want to welcome November, but what can you do? We have three guests on the show. Bruce Cheeseman, the St. Albans Town Select Board Chairman. Bruce. Marty Manahan in the middle here, or the middle to my left anyway, Director of Operations and Business Development for St. Albans City, and the veteran Public Works Director for St. Albans City, Alan Robtoy. Good to see you folks, especially with Alan here. Boy, Alan, easy to start talking about the windstorm. That was quite the storm. A lot of people still without power, but how'd the city fare?
Had some significant tree damage.
Sure, a big one up on North Main, not too far from myself.
Had a big one up on Lakeview Terrace, had one up on High Street, had a couple on the west side, one down on Bowles Lane. Pretty much got them all contained, so we'll spend the next couple of days going around picking them up and cleaning them up. There's still a real sizable one on North Main. That's probably the one you're speaking about. Yeah. It's actually on private property, so we try to clear the sidewalk and some of the brush, and we'll see where that one goes from there. But yeah, it was a busy 12, 14, 16 hours there. Guys from PW, I think some of them went out as early as 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning. Yeah. And yeah, it was a long day, but you prepare for it. I mean, we kind of knew it was coming.
Yeah, it was certain, the high wind warning was certainly in place. It was funny. I mean, I was watching the World Series game that night, as maybe some other folks here were, and paying attention to the weather, and they're going, you know, I think even up until midnight there wasn't maybe 10, 15 mile an hour wind, but I think around midnight or shortly thereafter it really started cranking up.
Yeah, the bigger struggle for us in a situation like that is when you lose power, particularly is the sewer pump stations.
Oh yeah.
You know, the signals going to the water tank, and everything's computerized, and then it's all hands on deck because you got to monitor a lot manually, and you got to run between sites, and it's a juggling act.
Did the Marty, did the wastewater plant, sewer plant run into any overruns, or Alan, because of that?
Oh no, we didn't have any significant problems, but only with pump stations that went down. But we got an emergency response plan for that, and we use Drumac, and we have our own vac truck, and so we're able to keep up with it. But it's never easy.
Yeah, you know, in my case, I made it through the series game, was wide awake, wired, reading in bed at about 2:50. I lost my power at about 2:15 or so. Yeah. Woke up at about 7 or so, no power. I got my power back at about 8, so that might have been the case for some folk. But went downtown. Rite Aid was closed still at noon. Post office folks were soldiering on. Despite no electricity, they were still open.
I think they were all tied into that High Street outage that when they had 3 broken poles.
Yeah. It's amazing what they can actually do to, you know, you think a lot of people think of electricity, they think of water, because they'll take the path of least resistance. Yeah. And they were actually able to switch some grids and reverse some things and get some people back a little quicker than they actually anticipated. Yeah. But yeah, it was quite an event.
Bruce, what about the town? How
you know, actually, the town fared pretty well. Yeah. I was talking with Alan, our Public Works Director, and he was telling me that a couple of roads, they closed down County Road and parts of Brigham Road for about 24 hours.
Wow.
And that was it. You know, same thing, limbs, stuff like that. They worked pretty well in conjunction with the fire department, though, because when the fire department went out on calls, if there was a line down and there were sparks and stuff like that, the fire department would be out. And what they did is they carried chainsaws with them. So any limbs or anything that was in the road blocking traffic, they stopped and cleared them. And then they called Alan later in the day, and Alan went out and cleaned things up. But pretty good. We fared real well.
But when you told me before the show, you heard it's still about 1,000 people in Franklin County without power?
I think that's what the news said tonight. Yeah. Still about 1,000 people.
I certainly have a few friends out on the relative hinterlands of the county without power.
Yep.
Wow. So quite the storm.
It was.
Speaking of fire departments have been in the news again. For the last few months, there's been at least some movement towards, certainly it sounded like a fair amount of support for a merger of the town and city fire departments. And Bruce, just reading a long messenger story, I guess maybe a couple weeks ago, was there concern in the town that, on the part of some folks anyway, that this was moving too fast, or what do you tell me? What's going on?
There's a little bit of concern. You know, we don't have all the facts yet. Okay, there's quite a bit of logistics that goes along with that. I mean, there's no doubt in my mind that it would be beneficial. But this isn't something that we can just jump into real quick like.
And was there a feeling that it was moving too fast?
There's a feeling that it was moving too fast, and we kind of like to slow things down a little bit. Have a couple of more meetings between us and the city, which I think one took place recently, and have a couple of public hearings on it before we really,
It still sounds
start
like
talking about changing things.
I mean, you sounded like you've been very supportive of the idea of this before. You sound like a good idea.
I'm supportive of the idea,
Yeah.
but I'm not going to make a final decision until I have all the facts.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of facts that we don't have.
Yeah.
There's
Martin?
a lot of logistics that hasn't been talked about.
Marty, from a city point of view, anything you can add to this?
No, I don't. I haven't been involved in that. I know the two departments have been discussing it and work pretty well together now, and I think we're just trying to formalize that. So
Yeah.
Yep.
Alan, looking ahead to winter, what's you're kind of gearing up for winter? Obviously, snow
Actually-
presumably will be flying in a couple weeks or so. You're kind of gearing up for that now.
Actually, we are. We start thinking winter actually September 1st.
September 1st.
Some might think that's a bit early, but you can never be fully prepared when
Yeah.
Mother Nature, just like the wind and the rain and everything else, the snow you can't control it in. So we always try to be prepared, and then you go out for the first time and you find out you weren't really as prepared as you thought you might have been. But that's typically the way that goes. But our struggle this year will be we got a lot of new employees. I think I got 4 new guys within the last year.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, lost a very good
That's
employee.
pretty much the whole department. Is that the majority of the department?
Well, there's 8 guys down there counting the supervisor.
Of course, you lost somebody to St. Albans Town, I believe.
Yeah, I didn't want to. I was going to mention it, but I was. So yeah, I lost a very good man in Alan last year. But you start over again, and but I kind of look forward to winter myself. I look forward to it ending too, and I look forward to March, my trip to Florida. But
We got some nice smooth sidewalks and roads to work with this year, though.
yeah, it's going to make everybody's the operator's job a little easier. The problem is the expectations will be higher in terms of keeping them maintained, but we'll give it our best. We'll get it done.
I want to mention this is a live show. At least it's live if you're watching us live. And our number 527-6449. Love to get phone calls. Plenty of issues to talk about in St. Albans City and St. Albans Town. So give us a call if you feel so inspired. Water, wastewater.
I knew you were going to bring it up.
Gee, what a surprise I might bring up that issue. I know Messenger had a long story on the current round of litigation pretty recently. Bruce, anything to impart on that of note?
No, I really don't have any updates on the litigation, that's for sure.
Have you started? I know at times you've been talking, some folks in the town talking to City Manager Dominic Cloud.
Yeah.
I think last show you suggested that those talks might at some point start up again. Any more talks?
I talked to Dominic last week.
Yeah.
And we have a tentative date to meet again.
Yeah. And the litigation, anything that's just kind of making its way in?
Just going through the ups and downs of the thing. I mean, we started off at one point, and I think where we are right now is we're really, in my opinion, we're very close, but there's a couple of issues that are left for us to discuss, and hopefully, Dominic and the city's been really good, been cooperative and listening, and there's been a little give and take on both sides, but we haven't come up with the bottom line yet. And hopefully, when we meet with Dominic again, which will probably be middle of the month, we can get a couple more things ironed out. We'll be that much closer to possibly doing business with each other. That's my wish.
I think some folks watching this, listening to this for a long time, might find it a little strange when you say you think things are close, that there's talk going on. But again, yet another round of litigation costing both the city and town, I can only assume, a fair amount of money.
True.
Can you understand how some people will probably, that this makes it, just kind of strange to folks?
I can understand how they'd feel that way. I'm not a sue crazy guy. I don't like litigations. I don't like lawsuits.
Yeah.
I think that we could it'd be far better off for both the city and the town to sit down and come up with a solution that fits both of us and agree upon something and start a good relationship. But there's things that have to be ironed out. It's just not that easy.
I guess obviously I don't think anybody.
But
Marty,
we are.
You wouldn't disagree with that statement, would you?
We are headed in. I think we're headed in the right direction. It's just.
Marty, anything you want to add or subtract from that?
No, I would
You
just say
certainly
that from
spent years dealing with this issue.
yeah,
yourself.
from the city's standpoint, we're moving forward. We've issued allocations in the town, and they've accepted the affiliation fee the way it's set up. And
You think that from a city point of view, has that worked reasonably well? Would you say the affiliation fee?
yeah, I don't, like I said, we haven't denied any allocations or anything, and
Nor have we.
literally when somebody comes in before the council, I think when using the channel 1516 local access as an example, their request took all of about 30 seconds.
Really?
They requested the allocation, a motion was made, and it was granted, and moved on. So.
And we thank you for that. Again, a reference to our new headquarters now under construction out in Wood Franklin Park West.
Yep.
Alan, any?
Well, and along with that is they're going to be having a pre-bid meeting here within the next couple of weeks.
On the sewer
construction
wastewater
of
plant?
wastewater plant.
Big project.
Yeah, $18 million. It's a big deal. But yeah, they'll have pre-bid on that, and hopefully bids turned around. I'm thinking within 30 days of that.
Really?
Yeah.
Does it seem like a good time to be going out to bid? Is that
That's
always hard to
what
say?
everybody tells me. You
Yeah,
know,
but it's hard to say for sure.
you don't want to wait too late. You don't want to get too close to spring. People load up with work, and
Yeah.
they're thinking we got some great engineers that work for us, Aldrich and Elliott, and they think the climate is right for pricing, but you don't know until you get out there, But for a job that big, I think we're probably only talking maybe 2 or 3 real legitimate bidders. Yeah, yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
The city did get some, Marty or Alan, some grant money recently. I think it was expected, but didn't you get some outside money for said project pretty recently?
I think they got like
from the congressional delegation.
about $4 million in USDA grants. Of the $18 million.
Yeah. And so again, that work would start in the spring, not over winter.
I wouldn't be surprised. I think what they're looking is to get out ahead of it so they can order. Some of that stuff has like a 6-month turnaround. Some pretty extensive pumps and things like that for equipment. So I think they're looking to, select the contractor, get some things behind them, start ordering equipment. I think there will be some things that they do.
Yeah.
But, I think the lion's share will start in the spring.
Alan, again, you've been dealing, this subject very, very well. So the plant really got to the point you really had to put in some significant bucks into the plant?
No question. It's every 20 years you have to do an evaluation per the state, and we did that a couple of years ago. So we've been a little bit longer than we might have should have actually taken to get here, but just look forward to it getting started. And most of it is useful life, replacing equipment. Not a lot of thrills about the whole thing. Frills are anything new except maybe the upgrade in phosphorus with a new TMDL and the reduction in that. We had. And
again, you've got to. That's part of this. You've got to reduce the amount of phosphorus that's getting out of the plant.
Yeah, I think they're going from like 0.5 milligrams per liter to 0.2, and 0.5 it comes out to like 6,089 pounds, and the new limitations at 0.2 are going to be somewhere around 2,400. We get to operate under the old permit in terms of phosphorus until we're built out, but there have been some changes to the permit. The permit our new discharge was issued on October 1st. So there's some new nuances about that, which a lot of detail. I don't necessarily want to get into it right now, but
I did know Conservation Law Foundation is appealing some of those permits, including the Northwest State Correctional Facilities, also the city's permit as well.
I know they're definitely contesting the Northwest, and it's kind of a little bit hard to get your head around because in terms of the phosphorus down there, it's 18 total pounds a year.
Really?
It's kind of...
For the record, a point I'm sure you've made, I think I've made, not that wastewater treatment plants, I mean, they should be made to be as efficient as possible, but that's a very small amount of the phosphorus getting into the lake, right? From the, anyway, but let me grab a call before I get lost on that subject. Thanks, caller. Go ahead. You're on St. Albans Today.
Yeah, this is Stanley Dukas. I have a question on the phosphorus measurement.
Yep. Go ahead, Stan.
So, is this based on your permitted capacity or your maximum plant capacity?
Can you deal with them?
Well, I'm not 100% sure of that answer, and rather than give you a misinformation, I think, and I'm not trying to duck it, all I can tell you is that it's going to be reduced to 0.2, and I just gave you the numbers on what the changes will translate to in terms of pounds. It's at 0.5, it was 6,089. It's, they're dropping us to 2,400 pounds a year. That's pretty significant. They cut us more than in half.
Say, Stan, can you turn your TV down? We're getting a little feedback. And maybe speak a little louder for us. Stan, you still there? Stan, again, if you can hear me, could you turn your TV down? Well, I'm not hearing from our caller right now.
I would say,
Marty, you want to jump in? Stan, call back if you want. Just we didn't hear you that well that time. Call back if you want.
I sit on the Regional Planning Commission as a representative from the city, and a number of those members went on a tour of the wastewater plant within the last month, and they made comments at our meeting last week of how impressed they were by the condition of the plant. And I think that's one of the things. We probably got a lot more useful life out of the plant as a result of the maintenance and the condition that those guys, Brian Willett and his crew, do down at that plant, and the cleanliness and just the organization of everything down there is pretty impressive. If anybody gets a chance to go on a tour, I think it would impress upon them that this is something we probably could have or should have gone after maybe 4 or 5 years ago, but we were fortunate to get a lot more life out of that equipment as a result of their maintenance. So
I was trying to make the point, just with the wastewater plants kind of a bit under the gun. Again, obviously, it's a good goal to make them as efficient as possible. Obviously, as less phosphorus coming out of them as possible. But that's a small amount of the phosphorus getting into Lake Champlain, Alan or Marty.
I just go to when I've been to a few of those meetings. I went to one at the museum when the EPA was up here in the state and everyone. And they put this pie graph up there, and when it shows you the piece that's attributed to wastewater plants in the state,
pretty small, right?
It's 3%.
Is that 3%?
It's 3%. And they made it pretty clear, though, in that meeting also that if they can't get that number down, lake-wide, if they can't get the phosphorus down, they're going to go back after the sewer plants again.
Really?
Which to
I guess it's kind of I guess in a way it's the easiest target to go after, I suppose.
It's a point source.
Right,
point
and
source,
that's the CLF has appealed, I think, 4 permits that the state approved.
Yeah.
And again, for what we're allowed, we always fall well below that number.
Yeah.
But they're suggesting that the state shouldn't have approved for what we are now. They should have been down around 0.1.
So is that right? So there are issues more almost with the state than with the state.
Right. That the state shouldn't. The state approved it, and they're appealing that based on that.
And in reality, we did a bunch of testing before we selected the equipment. We pretty much come to grips with what we're going to use for equipment for phosphorus removal, and we consistently were getting down to a 0.1. So we're going to be in pretty good shape, I think, in terms of phosphorus. And the beauty of it is you're allowed to sort of go up and down. It's your total phosphorus at the end of the year. You may violate on a given day, but you may also have 90 days of dry weather or somewhat dry. And so, I mean, it's...
the other thing we did additional separation up on Fairfield Street when we reconstructed Fairfield Street, taking stormwater that was going down through the sewer system, separating it into. So any chance we get, any opportunity we get when we did Main Street, Lake Street, that construction project that we have the opportunity to separate, we certainly take advantage of that too.
Yeah, there's a lot of plants in the state that don't take stormwater,
Yeah.
period. And I spent many years in that business, not operating them, but constructing them.
Yeah.
And, advanced technology's come a long ways. But no matter what kind of equipment you have, you've got to have the right people running it. It's like you guys are saying, for a plant that is your age is in good shape. But that's all because of preventive maintenance.
Yeah.
And, having some good people behind the wheel.
Bruce, you've been giving consideration, doing some studies in the town, doing your own thing. That's still a possibility.
Yeah, it is.
The
Yep.
price tag sounds like it's kind of scary, but that's still a possibility.
The price tag is scary, and the other thing is that the time that it would take to get it done.
Yeah.
Okay, so you could start on a sewage treatment plant today, and we'd be really lucky if we saw anything for the next 2.5, 3 years down the road.
Yeah, and that's assuming voters would approve.
I'm
a pretty
talking
big bond
after
issue.
voter approval,
Right.
and after hiring, putting an RFP out for
even if voters approve, we're
contractors
talking
and everything.
years.
Talking years, yeah. It's just like Alan was saying.
Yeah.
You get a project like that. You want to get the job out. You want to get your submittals in, because you've got to have all kinds of equipment and material setting on that job site once those guys hit it.
Alan or Marty, we talked about briefly the prison, Northwest State Correctional Facilities wastewater system. Is that, they deal with that? Does the city?
We actually run it for them.
The city runs it
Yeah, we
for
got a
them.
contract with them ever since it was built.
Okay.
Yeah.
That makes
Yeah.
sense. Why would they be wanting to deal with that?
Well, there's a couple of times where they thought they wanted to, but
Oh, really?
once they really started crunching the numbers,
Yeah.
they backed down quite quickly. They realized that it was being run pretty efficiently, and the dollars and cents of it were obviously must have been less than what they could do it for, because but they just put $750,000 in that plant about 3 years ago.
But
So
if I-
have you got one of your people, is there a city employee who's there all the time, some of the time?
No. It does equate to a full-time employee,
None.
but they're not there every minute of every day,
But they're there some of the time.
including weekends.
Okay. Bruce,
Saturdays
what were you
and
going to
Sundays.
say?
they have an old lagoon system, though, don't they?
Yeah, they
don't
do.
really have a sewage treatment plant there.
No, they use ultraviolet.
Right.
For,
So it's not like the wastewater doesn't end up in Lake Champlain, or?
well, the what comes out of the lagoons goes into a brook, but it's
Okay.
Right.
So that ends up in
we actually go down there and any sludge that's in the lagoons, we pump that out. We take it to our plant for processing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
In general, the city, again, there's been a lot of work, the streetscape, Marty mentioned just work on Fairfield Street, for example. Infrastructure-wise, is the city slowly, gradually making some progress? I know you had plenty of old lines, so there's still some just real old water sewer lines out there?
Just had that conversation with the superintendent today,
Yeah.
and in the last 5 years, we've made significant progress. I mean, we can actually control our downtown really, really well, and there's a significant amount of money that was put in
How
infrastructure.
many valves would you say you put in?
I don't know, but probably 40 or 50
Wow.
in the downtown area, like from Stebbins to Hoyt, and we've been spending. I think probably spent $300,000 or $400,000 in the last 5 years on valves. Yeah. And that's all about getting control in a major situation. I lost that tank 3 years ago. That wasn't a very good feeling. That's one of those days when you say, maybe it's time to find a warmer climate, a different job or something, because it was just really difficult. But
It was
the
a
city's come a
calamity
long
of
ways in
error.
terms of putting money into the system.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're starting to turn a corner.
How are the city's two water treatment plants? Of course, down on Macquam Shore and Fairfax Reservoir. What shape are they in?
There again, up at the Fairfax plant 3 or 4 years ago, we put
Put some money in up there,
we
right?
put 1.2 million into reconstructing the dam, actually increased the capacity, and we put about $700,000 into the actual building itself, on a new filter, new porous plate filter, about $700,000. So that plant's in pretty decent shape. The other one is in really good shape as well, and I don't know if there'll be any significant upgrades down at Macquam in the near future. I'm winding down, but I'm at the point where I think they need to start putting a little bit more in the infrastructure in terms of distribution with water lines, collection as far as sewer. Plants are in pretty good shape.
Of the
Especially-
water that city residents use, myself included, for many years, is that typically Fairfax water or Lake Champlain water? Or
Combination of both.
combination?
Yeah, if you're on that end, if you're on that southeast end of town, you can probably bank that you're probably getting water out of Fairfax.
I'm northeast, Ward 1.
Yeah, I'm thinking you're probably getting it out of the lake.
Is that right?
Yeah, but
And that water test, I mean, well, of course, it's treated, obviously. I mean, same difference. I mean,
we got great water, Richard.
yeah,
I'm here to tell you.
I've never had issue.
Yeah, every once in a while we get a bit of
Hey,
city water in
what
that
do we have
bottle,
right
just
here?
a-
Toast to city water. I've never
Yeah.
had any problems with city water.
Yeah, so I mean, every
complaints
once in a while
once
you
in a
get a
while.
little discoloration because in an old system, when you're out there turning valves, this morning, down in the town industrial park, they're doing a major, I don't know, $30-40 million project down there at Peerless.
Ben and Jerry's and Peerless.
Yeah, and then I got a state inspector calling me, a fire marshal, and says, we got to do a fire flow down there today. We need to flush that line. And I said, well, the thing flows about 1,600 gallons a minute, so hang on. Do you really need to flow that much? And he said yes, and the ground was trembling, and I think it actually really got his attention. But that all by itself can create some discoloration sometimes. But you got to do it. It's progress. It's not necessarily in the city. It was in the town.
Yeah.
But it's part of our system, and once in a while you get a little discoloration as a result of something like that. But
Yeah, interesting.
all in all, I'm pretty proud of the water we put out.
Town Industrial Park, Bruce, we just touched on it again. Ben and Jerry's, I think they were looking to finish their project in this month, November.
Yes.
Does that sound right?
Yep. It's
That's
coming
what,
along
about a
pretty good.
$30 million project, I believe.
Yep.
And what about Peerless? Will that go into next year? Has that got a ways to go?
Peerless still has a ways to go. I was
Yeah.
over there the other day, and I think they've got footings and some foundation, and they were doing site work.
Yeah.
It looks pretty good, though. They're coming along pretty good.
And of course, they've got a presence at the old Energizer plant.
They do.
As they're doing
Yeah,
their
they're
work
renting
in the
room
park.
over there. Yep.
Anything else to report on going on in the town park?
No, you're not in the town park, actually. No, we don't. Unfortunately, we don't have anything going on there. No activity.
Of course, I ask
Other
every,
than the renovations,
right,
the
ask
2 or
every
3
month
companies.
about the Brigham town-owned property on Brigham Road. And again, a party out there is still under contract to
Still
do
under contract.
something at some point.
Doing something at some point.
Nothing else you can tell us about
There
that.
isn't right now.
When do you think public will, get the word
Probably-
on what's happening out there?
After the first of the year,
Oh, so not too far away?
not too far away.
Yeah. Marty, and businesses-wise, anything of note to report in the city at this point?
Not really. We've got ongoing discussions with a few. We've got obviously the project across the street from City Hall with the property that we purchased.
And what can you tell us about that?
So we're working with the developer. He's got about a 3-month MOU to present some concepts with us. We've got at least one grade A tenant that is interested in probably 5,000 to 10,000 square feet of office space that we would try to fit into that core, and then possibly some retail space below. But other than that, it's
What
pretty-
ideally would you like to see there?
It would be nice to have retail on the bottom, a couple of nice retail spots on the bottom, and then
Residential apartments up top?
office space possibly
office space.
on maybe the top or the first and second floor, and maybe residential on the third floor. Doug Nettie and Grant Butterfield have started their work on the TD Bank building. That was a long process. We introduced them to that building probably about 3 years ago, did a tour and everything, and showed them the upstairs. As a result of that, they ended up buying 3 or 4 buildings from TD Bank that they wanted to get out of the property maintenance business and concentrate on their banking, I guess. So, and this was one of those buildings. So they finally reached a point they're going to put high-end apartments up on the top 2 floors of that building, leave the second floor as basically a white box with the ability to put up walls for potential business office space there, and then shift the bank into the southernmost storefront, and then create another storefront on the bottom floor of that. So the old Burno building received some historical tax credits. We're working with them, the property owners there, to do some facade upgrades and stuff to that building, again, to create probably 2 retail spaces there, possibly a restaurant. We've had discussions with a couple potential restaurants maybe to go in part of that space, which is a pretty good space right across from the hotel. So it's, you know, it's continuing. It's, like I said before, it's an ebb and flow. Typically downtown stores are operated by family-owned businesses that put all their heart and soul into it, and it's a high turnover. And the businesses that we have downtown, you know, like What a Yarn, Moon Shadows, Kevin Smith Sports, As the Crow Flies, have been around a while. They're dedicated to our downtown. We've got a strong merchants group that does a lot of programming and events downtown to try to bring traffic in. Saturday was an example of that. Saturday was packed with the Halloween events and stuff. So
Hotel's doing
Hotel's
well?
doing very well. Yeah. Maureen Brown is on our merchants committee, and they've had a very good fall. Exceeded their expectations. We're turning people away and stuff. So. Yeah, it's very good. Obviously, right now, I got a call last night from a representative from Green Mountain Power they were putting up a lot of their crews, but looking for spots for their line trucks to park and stuff. And this fall, we had hockey tournaments around where hockey teams came in with their buses, and we facilitated that over in the courthouse parking lot on the weekends and stuff, and tour buses during the fall. So we've got a very good relationship with them and good line of communication, so it's worked out.
Bruce, out in the Walmart neighborhood, nothing to report.
No,
so.
nothing to report there, unfortunately. It's kind of, to be honest with you, it's kind of dead. There's nothing going on.
Yeah.
Nothing whatsoever.
Of course, Marchtown meeting several months away, but as a town select board, have you started budget work for the next fiscal year, or is that still a ways off?
Yeah, we have our first budget meeting next week.
Next week?
Yeah.
And again, worth noting, obviously, a couple of select board folks are up at the Marchtown meeting, yourself and Sam Smith.
Correct.
And again, you're looking to run for another term.
Yes, I am.
And can you report a certain caller who checked in a while ago? Anything you can say about that caller?
Yeah, I think we're going to have Mr. Dukas back in.
So it looks like Mr. Dukas is going to run for the board again.
Take a run at it, yeah.
And Sam Smith also up in March. Has Sam indicated whether he's going to run again?
I haven't heard anything from Sam as to whether or not he's going to.
Yeah. But already some interest in that scene.
Yeah.
Marty, have you guys jumped into budget yet for the next fiscal year, or still a little early?
Not officially, but it's around the corner. There's meetings set up and stuff internally to go over budgets and stuff, and then it'll go out to the council and have hearings.
While we're talking about folks running for re-election, I believe you got the word that Mayor Liz Gamache intends. I believe she had a conversation with her.
Yeah, I met with her. Her and I were together last week at the hospital ribbon cutting ceremony, and she told me that she was going to be running for mayor again.
Marty, have you heard that?
That's the word I heard.
That's the word you heard.
Yeah.
That's the word you heard. Interesting. And hearing any other name, of course, Liz has never had an opponent.
Yeah, I'm not sure where Mike Thomas is these days, but
who could forget Mike Thomas? not me. Probably a story I'd mentioned before when Peter Delorier was mayor. I'll never forget being in front of City Hall on Election Day, and Mike and Peter were there having, certainly a civil conversation. And I guess I asked Mike, if you win, you're going to give the Mayor Delorier, a little time to pack. Yeah, I'll give him a half hour. Then I want him, out of the office. But of course, it didn't come out. What's happened to Mike?
I haven't heard from him. I'm not sure.
I think we've lost.
I heard he moved to the other side of the pond. I hear he's over in New York, so I'm waiting to see an announcement over there, perhaps.
Interesting.
But
I should mention this. Speaking of races, looks like we may well have a contested sheriff's race next year. Roger Langevin, a corporal with the St. Albans PD, the school resource officer at SATEC, is definitely running. And I haven't talked to the sheriff recently, but I'm under the impression he will likely run again, so we may well have a Democratic primary next August. Marty, I know going back in time a few years, you weren't real happy with the sheriff. Of course, the sheriff took certainly a blow for him, big blow, when he lost the contract with St. Albans Town. When the city PD started covering the town, something the town sounds like it's still pretty happy with at this point.
We are.
Anyway, of course, the sheriff took the city to court, eventually lost, but certainly a legal battle that cost both sides some buckos. Can I assume you would look favorably on his opponent, or would that not be a good?
I have a tremendous amount of respect for Roger Langevin.
Yeah.
And think he would do a good job.
There we go. Any thoughts on the potential sheriff's race, Bruce?
You know, I got to agree with Marty. I think Roger's a good guy. He's a good businessman, and I think he'd do a good job as well.
Have you got a feel for that race aside from your own feelings? I don't really.
No, I think the sheriff. I like Bob.
Sheriff's been on board for a long time,
and I think he's obviously got a lot of support, and it would be an interesting race.
Yeah, I think you're right about that. It does seem like politicians and office holders or baseball managers. It does seem like to some extent there's a shelf life. You heard that, I think, with John Farrell, maybe even Joe Giardi. Right. Not back with the Yanks, not back with the Red Sox. That, it just seems like over time, I guess you're kind of bound to pick up some enemies or get people who initially might have been high on you. I mean, it's bound to happen, I guess.
Yeah, you don't stay in office that long without creating some.
Yeah. But anyway,
happens with directors of public works too.
Alan,
I can attest to that.
speaking of which, how long have you been the director?
I think I became director in 2003.
2003, and with the department many years before that.
Somewhere around 40.
Wow, so 40 total.
Yeah, right now, yeah. I want to just go back to Stan's question just for a second.
Yep.
And our average daily flow is about 2.4 million a day.
Yep.
We are permitted for 4 million, but we're designed for up to 8, where we can actually handle up to 8. But regardless of the number, whether it's based on the average daily flow, the permitted flow, or the design flow, the fact that they've changed our or lowered the limit to 0.2, we have always been well under the phosphorus levels. Oh. So now that we're at 2,400 pounds, regardless of what it's based on, we'll meet that. I have no fears that we won't. As a matter of fact, I think we'll be certainly well under what the 2,400 pounds. Because the equipment that we're putting in, it's consistently getting down to 0.1. And I don't see that being an issue. I really don't.
Marty, certainly progress. It's in better shape than it was, but still a little more work at Lake Catherine and Federal Street there. I mean, a little more paving to do. Is that?
Well, actually, I was in Montpelier this morning, but I thought they were scheduled to pave.
I had logged some time in Montpelier this morning too.
They were scheduled to pave today.
Really?
So I'm not sure what happened there, but I would expect that they would be in. Obviously, SD Ireland is doing that project. They've got a lot of other projects going on, and paving is winding down, so everybody's trying to get their paving done. But the plan is to get the intersection paved, the final lift there paved, pave Catherine. I believe the sidewalk is done. They were finishing up the curb on Catherine today, and then pave Market Street to have that done by the 15th.
Very good. We've got another call. Go ahead, caller. You're on St. Albans Today. Go ahead, caller.
Yeah, this is Stanley Dukas again. I just want to thank Alan for giving me the true scoop. Thank you, Alan. I appreciate your service.
Thank you, Stan.
Thanks,
You're
Stan.
welcome.
Again, our number, 527-6449. Marty, Market Street, interesting history. So again, we're talking, the city owns Market Street now.
We do.
It's kind of gone back and forth between the city and the railroad.
It has. It was originally owned by the city, and then it went to the railroad, and then it came back to the city, and then I believe it was like 1981 to 83 time frame. It went back to the railroad. And then as part of this whole process, we repurchased. It was interesting. We gave it to the railroad in the early 80s, but they felt that apparently the infrastructure that they did necessitated a fee to sell it back to us. So we bought it. And we're going to putting in a curb and a sidewalk there on the west side. And it's going to be a one-way street heading south.
Okay.
And the railroad, as part of that project, we're putting up a fence to secure that area that was known as the puddle where BFA students used to park. The railroad's has retained that, and and we're going to take it over. We've dug out, put a new base, and paving it.
So this will be finally a legitimate street
Yes.
that you can,
Yeah.
you know, you won't have to hold your breath to drive down it, hopefully.
Right. No, that was a rough street, but it should be in much better. And we're putting in some drainage as well along with that project. So.
You just happened to mention the BFA parking. Kids, BFA students parking has been an issue from time to time. I haven't seen any stories on it. Is that kind of always an issue, or is that situation kind of settled down somehow? Or
No, it's always an issue. It's interesting because I just had an email exchange with a student, I think a student reporter for the Mercury.
Huh.
So I'd expect another story coming out in the Mercury regarding that. But it's tough. You know, we don't have any timed parking or anything in front of the school on Main Street heading south. As a result of neighborhood complaints, we put in timed parking on Stoll Street. Since then, there's not many cars parking on Stoll Street. We've eliminated that parking as a result of all the construction down on Market Street. So we've just pushed them out further. They're now on Lincoln and
Gotcha.
other streets. So.
Okay, thanks. We got another call. Go ahead, caller. You're on St. Albans Today. Go ahead, caller.
Yes, good evening, gentlemen.
Hey, just talk louder, David. We're for everybody's low volume. Yeah, we can hear
Low
you.
volume. I figured everybody must know my voice anyway, so I figured that, seeing Alan all dressed up there, first time I ever seen him dressed up.
Yeah.
I got to get this back after the show, David. It's just a rental.
Belongs to Dominic.
It's nice to see that the intersection of Lake and Federal and Catherine Street is being finished up because, boy, let me tell you, that was rough when they had it all torn up, but it needed to be done because the water and sewer lines need to be replaced. So it's looking a lot better. Thank God for that. And Alan, I want to thank you working with our highway department guy, Alan Masher, who we stole from the city because he came to work for the town. And it's nice to see that the highway departments, the city and town, are working together, helping each other out during this, storm that we just had and all the things that you've done with the town in the past, so I appreciate it, and I want to thank Mr. Cheeseman for the fact that we finally got a portalette down to the park, because I've been going down there and picking up papers and people, leave their garbage down there. So it's a beautiful park, and the town put a lot of money into that, and I know they're going to be putting more money into the gates and then in the bathhouse, and that's one of our golden gems like the city has Taylor Park.
Thank you, Dave.
So,
Boy, David, that's a lot of praise. Are you going to leave it with just praise?
well, if I said anything else, someone would say I'm a hypocrite. But I did stop down at the Veteran Cemetery in Randolph, and you guys should know two people that are buried down there.
I know Bill Chaffee's buried there for one.
No, is that right?
Yeah.
So Bill Chaffee and who?
Yeah, I got a picture of Bill Chaffee Stone,
A former employee, Tim Hertel.
and it was hard to find because they're all numbered, and you have to go to the directory and find out, where he's buried. But I also went to Tim Hertel. He's also buried down there. He used to be a city employee. Yeah, so I've taken enough time. Thank you very much. Have a nice night.
David, thanks for calling. Get our number, 527-6449. Anything to report, Bruce, on the town hall again? Just a lot of
Well,
studies
that's
thought about the future of the town hall.
no, actually, it's moving ahead pretty good.
Yeah. So what do you think? Is it likelier than not that we've got a different location for a new town hall at some point?
I think we do. We've got a couple of locations in mind right now.
Yeah.
We're getting some prices on land.
Huh.
We're hoping to have it before the voters, I think in November.
So not March.
We won't make March.
Okay.
But we will have it before the voters in November.
Okay.
And
this might be, a town complex. It might be town hall, public works.
well, that's one of the things that we're going to finalize as to how big of a project it will be.
Yeah.
And hopefully, what I'm hoping for is both the DPW and the town hall.
Yeah.
But we've had a couple of other parties that might want to do some joint venturing with us on it. So, and it's coming together real well.
Yeah.
We've got a really good team, infrastructure team put together there, and they're working real hard. And hopefully we'll have something before the voters in November.
And that ballot item would be something like, presumably, will voters approve spending whatever on a new site for a town hall slash town public works garage?
Correct. Yep.
So you think the current town hall, and I'm sure hopefully the public works garage, their years, days are numbered in their current location?
There's no doubt. There's no doubt. I mean, the days at the town hall is a nice old building, but you know, to bring it up to code, just to bring it up to code is like $1.5 million. And we still have the land problem. We don't have any parking, you know, and stuff like that. And, you know, we talk all the time about improving the lake. And, you know, there's a few of us that are a little guilty of adding a little bit to that lake down there. And through the years, it might have been the town garage, you know, with the salt and everything so close to the lake. So we would really like to, you know, be part of the solution and get the town garage out of there, off the lake.
And the marina project looks very, very solid for the spring?
Everything I hear is that the marina project is going to be in business come May, providing the weather's right.
Boy, just like last year, the lake's gotten pretty low again. In fact, I was out at Kilcare, I think, the last couple of evenings, wondering if I could walk out to Mosquito Island. Boy, not quite, although you wouldn't need really significant boots to get out to Mosquito Island, but it's the sandbar that surfaced a year ago. It's still a little underwater, but again, it's a low lake, but we'll see what happens by springtime.
Alan and I are talking about the skating rink. We're going to put the skating rink into the park this winter.
So is that a done? Can you promise? Is that a promise?
Well, I can just about promise that, yes.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Oh boy, that's great.
Yeah, and we still got.
You have to take where? So where will that go?
Right in front of the bathhouse, the stone house.
In front of that would seem like the obvious place. You'll just put up some siding, obviously, or something.
Yeah, put some 2x6s, 2x8s up.
No, I mean that shouldn't be a real expensive issue,
Heck
right?
no, not at all.
Oh,
All kinds of water.
All kinds of water there. Yeah.
You got
But I
some
will
water.
tell you, we've tried that several times at different locations.
In the city.
Outside rinks are such a struggle.
Yeah.
They are.
I wish you the best of luck, and they're going to try to put one again at Hardack, but they're a real struggle because the freeze and thaw cycle.
Yeah.
You know, it's but there's definitely a need for it. You know, no question about that.
Well, we're hoping that being on the lake is going to help us a little bit.
You're
there
5
with the
degrees
wind and
colder
everything.
down there, probably.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wish you well. I wish you well on that.
Yeah.
Marty, speaking of Hardack, the merger between Hardack and the city, is that a done done deal?
Yeah, we've signed off on it. Dominic has signed off on it. Actually, Alan can probably speak to this better than I can. He has a tough time tooting his own horn, but those guys spent a lot of time up there the last month or so cleaning up a lot of the areas. They tore down the old building last week and cleaned that up, and it was in good shape for the race
Of course,
this
Hardack
past
got
weekend.
some great attention last weekend with the America East Championship, with El Purrier turning in another incredible effort there. Great effort.
So there's a lot of opportunity there. I think there's a separate group besides the Hardack board that's looking at possibly building a permanent rink there as part of the infrastructure and as part of the building that would service the ski hill too. So
your thoughts on that? I know we've gotten into that a little bit. I'm aware there are folks out there who think a second rink is not a good idea, who are concerned about how it would affect Collins Purley. You got any concerns? Or do you think a second rink's a good idea?
I mean, I guess I'm not in position to say whether the numbers justify it, but if you have this group that has the money, that wants to build it and feel that they can sustain it, I think it's certainly worth looking at. Is that the best location for it? I think it offers a lot of opportunity for people that go up there. Kids can ski, kids can skate. You know, why somebody's brother is playing a hockey game, maybe one of the other siblings can be skiing on the hill or sliding on the hill. Is there efficiency by putting them next door to each other at Collins Purley? I think so, but then you're dealing with the school system and the ramifications of that. You know, you go up to Canada, and Alan and I have had this conversation before, but you go up to Canada, you go up to the little rinks up in Bedford and all these communities, the municipalities support those rinks. But they also have, they have bars in them, they have restaurants and stuff in them, so there's a lot more activity. With 2 rinks here, you inevitably, now with the new hotel on Lake Street, you inevitably could have some pretty good hockey tournaments come to the, you know, and what does that do to the community, you know? And so having it at Hardack certainly wouldn't pose an issue, I think, as far as locality and being that far away from Collins Pearly. But again, the group that is looking at doing this at Hardack, I think, you know, I would equate it to the group we sent down to Montpelier when we looked for our downtown designation. Those were the movers and shakers of St. Albans City that got it done. The first time they went down, they got it approved. No other community had done that in the past. The people that are involved in looking at building a rink at Hardack are the people you would tap to try to, if you wanted to do something like that, tap to try to get it done. So,
I know Tim Hurlbert's been much involved with this, his connection with Hardack for years and stuff. He's given, I know, and I'm sure a lot of other people have too, a lot of effort into that.
Unbelievable. And again, those guys are doing it without any recognition, without getting paid.
Yeah.
You know, they've got a lot of, again, the people that are behind this have the connections to get it done. So it would certainly provide an opportunity there at Hardack.
Bruce?
Tim does a lot in the community. He's on our infrastructure board as well.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The other thing I would mention too, when we were talking, going back to the water plant,
Yep.
is when you look at the condition of the wastewater plant and everything and what those guys do. This summer, that crew painted, what was it, half of the water plant.
Yeah,
down there.
last time we spent 8 or 10 grand painting it was with a contractor. This year we decided the employees were going to do it.
Oh.
They got 50% of it done. Didn't cost me any more than the paint and the material. But
Yeah, so if you drive by there and look at the condition of that, it's as a result of the guys that are there working at the plant every day. So,
yeah, if you haven't been to Hardack in say a month,
Yeah.
you should take a walk through because I think you'd see a huge difference in terms of it's pretty spotlessly clean up there right now.
Yeah.
We
What
just
a-
got a little topsoiling and things to do around where we took the building down, but those old storage trailers are gone. There was a bunch of styrofoam, a lot of trash hanging around, and pretty much everything is
Got
gone.
that out.
Pretty,
Got that out of there.
yeah, it's pretty. We got ready for that NCAA meet, and yeah, it looks pretty good. I plan to keep it that way and make some. I think there's other improvements planned, but
Talk about a tremendous resource for this area. Yeah, my house, I'm just like 5 minutes from getting up into the Aldous Hill Trail system, so I love having that close to me. It's a great resource.
you drive by there on a February night when the lights are lit up at night.
Yeah.
And the
Pretty wild.
kids are,
Yeah.
it's a huge opportunity. And the guys, you know, Gould Sussland and that whole crew, Bruce Pelkey, who is up there now, pretty much running the winter operations. You couldn't get it done without people like that. So it took a lot of effort to get us to where we are now. So I think it's a good situation with us managing it, and we have the resources to spend some time up there. So
When you say the city managing it, Marty, I mean in particular rec department, will this be something Kelly
yeah,
will
probably it would fall under that. Obviously, the recreational facility it'll fall under her purview. And they still have the Hardack board and this epicenter board. So
Bruce, this is good. I mean, good news. It sounds like just a
Great news.
real plus.
Great news.
Yeah.
Great news. That Hardack's come a long ways in the last 20 years.
What
The
place
dog
has
park.
an-
Yeah.
I went up by there Saturday
It's a pretty
afternoon.
popular place.
Oh, it was amazing.
Definitely
You know,
benefits
Friday
both
night it
communities.
was packed. It's amazing the use that gets. So
Yeah. I go back far enough with Hardack. I remember playing tennis when they used to have tennis courts up there.
yeah.
And again, kudos to the city going back a few years and Kelly for bringing the public 4 nice public courts in the city these days. For
Yeah.
a while, things have gotten
Yeah, and
pretty,
Houghton
pretty
Park
grim.
is another one that the St. Albans Football Association, if you've been down there recently, they till up all the old football field. Tim Smith is on that board. Fortunately, he obviously has access to topsoil from the industrial park, and Matt Tabor has volunteered his time, brought in some topsoil and stuff, and they're going to put a new field in there for the youth football
Oh, is that right, new
program.
field?
So it's going to have a slight crown to it and stuff. So it'll be nice. And again, it's a group of volunteers. The people that are on that board, you know, Kevin Smith and Tim Smith don't have kids in the football program, and they're volunteering, you know, 10, 15 hours a month doing this kind of stuff. So
There's a ton of work there. I managed 10 sports fields.
No, did you really?
Holy smokes.
yeah.
A lot of work.
A lot of sure work that most people just don't have a clue about.
And that's,
Exactly.
you know, and
Exactly.
Alan's crew, he's got a guy down there mowing them and mowing the baseball fields and getting the schedules and making sure that they're ready to go when game time rolls around. So it's a community effort.
Alan, is the end in sight? Not trying
Oh,
to
no.
trying to hasten it for you.
no,
but,
I can see the end zone.
Is that right?
Yeah, I'll be 65 in May,
Uh-huh.
so I plan to firm up my plans between now and May, and
You
maybe
think sometime next year you might
yeah,
bow out?
no, definitely transition out sometime before next fall, probably.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've had a pretty good ride.
Wow.
I did want to plug the fact that we have a new street sweeper.
Oh, is that right?
We just spent $250,000 on a street sweeper,
Wow.
of which, again, Marty's talking about the shakers and movers, and Chip Sawyer is a pretty good grant writer, and
Yeah.
if we found $125,000 towards a $250,000 purchase. That was a
Wow.
pretty big deal for us. But
I remember when when Bill retired, he got a ride home on the old sweeper.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah. Had all they could do, I think, to get it up Congress Street.
yeah, yeah.
So you think you give them a ride home on a new one?
Possibly. I don't know if we
I would hope so.
give them a ride on the
don't
new
think there's
sweeper.
going to be. They're
Might
going
have
to
to break out the old one.
Maybe
huh?
the old vac truck.
Marty, I was asked this question and I couldn't answer it a week or two ago. Question was, Richard, what's Marty's job and Chip Sawyer's job? Do they overlap at all, or are they totally distinct? Or are they? They almost sound like they might overlap a little bit, or not.
Well, Chip is
And Chip, director of what, planning and development.
so the planning office, the permitting office, he oversees that, grant writing and that kind of stuff. I am more operations with regards to all the buildings, the day-to-day operations there, the special projects like this sidewalk project and curb project that we're doing now.
Do you see yourself as kind of an assistant city manager, or is that?
No, I don't think. No, I
Let's
think
put it
we have
that
a
way.
pretty good team, and we all kind of support one another. And if somebody needs some help, we overlap a lot. And so special projects like that, we've got next year. We're looking at next year's curb and sidewalk replacement. So we've had a couple of meetings on that. I've been involved in that. We're going to probably fine-tune that within the next couple of weeks, and we'll present that to the council. As far as the business development, obviously supporting the downtown program, the downtown board, the merchants, looking at facade improvements, anything to support downtown falls under my purview. So,
Bruce, down to a couple minutes. Anything you want to throw out?
No. We're coming along we talked about the bay. The bay's coming along well.
Yeah. And again, mention the dock is definitely going to get some attention.
We have a structural engineer that we've hired that's taking a look at the dock right now.
They're doing that right now.
Doing it right now.
Huh.
They give us an indication of what we're going to have to do to improve it, and we want to do it because we got Chuck's.
Too.
We got Chuck's Marina next door.
Yeah.
We want it to fit into the.
When will you get results of that study? Do you know?
We should have it within a week or so.
soon.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So possibly, I mean, if the recommendation is you should be doing this kind of work, that might be something. That's something that voters might be dealing with in March.
Yeah, we could be looking at that in March for sure.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Alan, down to just a minute and a half.
I guess the last thing I would say was we did a bunch of Class 1 paving this year. We got Lake Street done and Lower Newton done, top coat on Fairfield Street. The one thing we didn't get done that was scheduled was North and South Main. The plan is to pick that up in the spring, so that's going to get complete total reconstruction of the roadway.
So reconstruction of the roadway.
Yeah,
plane it.
They'll adjust all the structures, new pavement, new paint, new everything.
Interesting. Yeah. Marty, you want the last word?
Just getting ready for winter, I guess. We're wrapping up our projects. The sidewalk curb project is coming to a close. We appreciate the patience that the neighborhoods and the residents there have given us over the summer, and look forward to doing probably the East Side Ward 1 mostly next year. So
look for a lot of activity in the city, and I'm sure the town next year also. Hopefully we'll all have a good winter. Anyway, thank you, gentlemen, for coming on the show. Bruce Cheeseman, the St. Albans Town Select Board Chairman. Marty Manahan, Director of Operations and Business Development for St. Albans City, and Alan Robtoy, the Veteran Public Works Director. Thanks for your time, folks. Thanks for the calls, and thanks to Joanne. Is Jerry still out there? Zach, for the folks who do all the hard work around here. I'm Richard Cowperthwait. Thanks for watching us on St. Albans Today. And we'll be back for another monthly show in early December. Thanks for watching. See ya.